We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Wendy Finch, and I'm the Marketing Director for TopCon Solution Stores, for which PPI Group is now a part of the TopCon Solution Store network. We are broadcasting from Portland, Oregon, but we recognize that through this new relationship with the TopCon Solution Stores, we are extended beyond just the Pacific Northwest, which is what we were kind of used to. So we're reaching out across the country, and that's kind of exciting for us. So with me today, I have the infamous Kevin Clausen, who is the Senior Application Engineer for PPI Group here for the Autodesk Civil 3D or Autodesk Infrastructure product line. So welcome, Kevin. Thank you for joining the webinar.
Well, goodness, thanks for having me. I tell you, it just wouldn't be a webinar unless there's some kind of connection error, you know?
Absolutely. One thing we're used to is zigging and zagging and trying to keep up with technology. So we've both been pretty busy. I guess I had to schedule a webinar just to get caught up with you.
Yeah, this is kind of nice, actually. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
How you been?
Good. How are the kids?
Okay. Great Father's Day, thanks.
Good. So what we're going to talk about today is what's new in Civil 3D 2019. So I'm sure you've got some treats for us there. But before we do that, I want to do a couple housekeeping things. The webinar is being recorded so that it will be available on the website following this webcast. And so if you want to revisit any of the information that's presented, you can watch it in the recorded version or archived version, or if you want to send it to a colleague and share. The other thing I want to talk about is because we've been so Northwest centric and now we're having this larger platform, it's kind of exciting. If there's anything throughout this presentation or previous presentations that you might have been on with Kevin and I, if there's anything that is of interest to you, while we aren't currently hosting what we call our public classes across the country, we do offer custom training or consulting. So what that means is that's having Kevin come to your office, meet with your team, and quite frankly, there's no better way to get focused, affordable training if you've got a group of 4 or more. And so that's the best way to get up to speed quickly and again just more focused.
Yeah, definitely efficient. It's a bit more efficient than just like popping into a 3-day class. And
right.
You know.
So with that being said, Kevin, give us an example. I know you've been working with a lot of different agencies, whether that be in the private sector or in the government. Just give a couple summaries or a couple of quick topics of things that you've been helping folks with in the last several months.
All right. Well, we're going off script here.
Yeah.
No, I'm just teasing. You know, it depends. Every now and then, there is a time and place for sort of an open enrollment class. And I was just mentioning that, you pop in for 3 days, and it depends on, what the discipline that you're in. If you're a surveyor and you were to pop in, just say like an introductory class of Civil 3D, the first day and a half is really more survey-related information, and then it transitions over into more of the design side. So there's a lot of that information that you may not necessarily need. So, what I probably do more now than ever than just the open enrollment classes is, again, whether it be a private or in different agencies, we'll just take a look at some of the problems that they're having. More often than not, we can kind of boil it down to bottlenecks or pieces. If it was something to do with, say, I don't know, corridors or something like that. Well, you may already have creating your alignments, creating your profiles, that kind of thing, but you're struggling with transitions or more specific assembly matters. So that's kind of how that ends up playing out, is we attack basically the core need, or not core needs, I guess, but specific needs, I should say. And, you know, it seems to work out pretty well. You know, I do it in both arenas, whether it be a consulting, or maybe it's just for one firm where I'll sit down with them and we'll, you know, again, focus on their needs. But what's neat about that too, though, is during that time, you know, one, we are hitting exactly what you need, but two, as the process, or as the class, if you will, unfolds, that's where those questions come up too. You know, I ran into this, I can't label that. Have you ever seen this happen? You know, that kind of thing. And you know, hopefully, you know, I have an answer. And if I don't, you know, I'll you know, get back to the hotel or wherever I'm at that evening and figure out an answer one way or another. But I found that it's a really just an efficient way to get exactly what you need. And maybe I'll shut up here. Sorry, I get a little wordy, but you know, I find this program, it's so incredibly vast, and everybody does something different. We can really target and you know, I don't know, find gains or productivity gains in only what you need. You know, let's as the old saying goes, let's eat that elephant, you know, one bite at a time.
Great. So the good news is it doesn't cost anything to explore this option, right?
Yeah.
So schedule a call, do a little bit of a conference scope call. Kevin can identify what you can identify what your problems are, and you can talk through the process. No commitment, at least explore if that's something that might be of benefit to you. So with that being said, I think we should dive right in. Looks like we've pretty much got everybody on the webinar, and we got a large group. Time permitting, we will be answering some questions. So go ahead and use that question box on your webinar toolbar and submit your questions at any time throughout the webinar. And maybe we'll take a little midway break and address some questions, and then address some at the end. So we're going to go ahead and turn things over to Mr. Clausen.
Sure. And what is our attendance right now? About just over 6,000?
Yeah, it is. It's a small group.
I'm just playing it. Well, it's been out for a while. You know. Anyway, well, thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. Sorry I gave you such a long-winded answer there. That wasn't. I don't know. I get a little.
No, my fault for.
Yeah, that's your fault. That's on you.
Going off script.
That's on you. That's on you. I could have kept going too. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. I'll try to make this quick and painless. Today we're going to be looking at what's new in Civil 3D, and I just hand selected a few, I don't know, new bells and whistles, if you will, that I think are exciting, or if nothing else, are going to increase productivity. So maybe starting off here, as Wendy said, I'm Kevin Clausen. I know a lot of you have seen these silly slides that I hand out, but you know, locally here, but I know we're reaching out to quite a few other places nationwide here. And I cannot believe it. Every single time I say it, I've actually been here at the company now for 18 years, or just about 18 years. So darn near grew up here. And again, like Wendy was saying, my, I guess, forte, if you will, is I work with, whether it be agencies or private, whatever it is, and you know, help them hopefully, you know, achieve their design needs, or for that matter, you know, managing data, whatever it is. And one of my main focuses now, in fact, right after I leave here, I'm heading out, and I think my friends are on the other end right now listening to where I'm heading. I build a lot of styles templates, and styles templates are the key to Civil 3D. So I don't know, when you were talking about just having a chance to, or talking to somebody, whatever, if you are in fact in need of taking a look at your styles template, make sure you're efficient, or you know, you want to try to cut down on some of the layers, or what I often refer to as like template bloat. You know, let me know. Often I'll make sure my email's up at the end. What we'll do more often than not is I just have you send in a template, and I can take a look at it and make some suggestions, and you know, we can kind of go from there. But no big deal. But anyway, before I get too far along, so last night I'm working on some stuff at my house, and I'm all by myself, and I hear some noise out back, and I go out back. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'm all by myself, and I'm dying to tell something. So looking through my window, I had nobody to tell. So I got a picture of these two little rascals that you can see they dump water, and I feed a couple of feral cats every now and then that come on by or whatever. So now I have these little partners that come out, hang out, eat the feral cat's food, and I went outside and sat down with them for a little while, and I probably shouldn't have done that. But
they will bring back their friends.
yeah, I figured as such, but they were so cute, I couldn't believe it. So I was just hanging out with them and throwing them little food and talking to them, and it was pretty neat. So anyway, neither here nor there. Like I said, today we're looking at Civil 3D 2019. And I don't know, I kind of broke this down into sort of 4 categories, if you will. Integration of Autodesk Civil 3D 2018.1 and 2, the updates, and maybe long story short, and I'll hit my cards a little bit here. What they've done in version 18 with the various additions that you can download, what do they call those? I'm drawing a blank here. The country kits, that kind of thing. You can download those or whatever. And all of those now are incorporated in 2019. So it's not necessarily that we have, per se, all new features, but those are now definitely in the program. There is a few design efficiency updates, a couple of them which I'm going to show today that I'm really hot on. Production efficiency is really just talking about, exactly that, just efficiency. In fact, I think in our little blurb that we were sending out, this release really is about becoming more efficient, communicating, and that last bullet there, collaboration. So a little background here, I guess. Before I get too far along, this is the first question that everybody has asked me, and everywhere I've gone, is Civil 3D 2019, do you have the ability to, in air quotes here, save back? Remember, we don't save back. There is no save back. We export that information out. But 18 and 19 are interoperable. So if you are in 19, and I don't know if you have a couple seats in 18 that haven't been converted up yet, or for that matter, you're working with a consultant that is running 18, you will be able to share those drawings back and forth. It's not till we get to anything from 17 and below that you're going to be, that we'd have to go through the rigmarole of exporting out your drawing, figuring out, how you're going to do that, and then kicking out, of course, the land XML files to recompile that data. Now, that being said, as you can see, 2018 format, the DWG information is the same, as well as the Civil 3D objects. The only thing that that's not going to be coming back is the new vertical curve high-low point. And that's something I'm going to show briefly today. And there they are. That's that word I was looking for, the country kits or extensions. No big deal. I already kind of mentioned this, but again, if whatever it may be, I'll show a list of them. There's quite a few of them, geotechnical and so forth. But you can go out, you can download these, and all of these now are incorporated into the latest and greatest version. So briefly looking at them, and I'll let you take a quick peek at that list. I know a lot of folks kind of pick and choose which ones that they want to use. If you're not doing Rail, that may not be something that you wanted to download, that kind of thing. I'll let you take a quick peek at those. Any of these spark your interest, let us know, and if nothing else, I can get you out to the website and you can download it and take a look at them for yourself. Okay, so design efficiency updates. So probably one of my favorite ones that have come out in this release is the profile geometry enhancements. So now we have the ability to fix a vertical curve by a high or low point. And you can see there in the little preview on the slide there. This is, I guess, what we're trying to show here is this is possibly a culvert or some low point on the design that we're needing to achieve, or perhaps maybe a starting point. What we've ran into up to this, and I'll show this in just a minute. What we ran into this up to this point is it's really a balancing act of trying to get your vertical tangents and vertical curves all matched together, tangential, and then massaging that up and down. Obviously, if you're bouncing those vertical curves around, your grades are changing, coming in and going out, all that kind of thing. Now we actually can select a location, set where we want that elevation, and then we can design, as that bullet says, design outward from that known location, whether it be incoming or outgoing. Now, also, they have worked on this. I know that I've had a couple of phone calls on this in the past here, talking about the rail, the cant support. We've wrestled with it a time or two, and we couldn't quite get the cants to work. Now they've added that in the subassembly composer, so it's fully supported inside of that. So I think what I'm going to do, maybe let's bounce out and take a look at some of these first before I get too deep. Okay, so maybe looking at that, the high-low point first. So I set up a drawing here just for fun, and I thought this would work out. And I have it in a couple of different versions here. Now, what we have going here before, now I'll kind of poke around. You can see what we, most of this probably looks relatively familiar to you. You can see that we have a vertical alignment. There's an existing ground in this profile view here. What I did, just for speed, because I know that these things always have a tendency to run long, so I'm going to try to keep it as short and sweet as possible. But this, I may be going a little bit different. I left the line work, the incoming tangent over here. And then you can see there's one outgoing over here. But down at the bottom, here's possible culvert. And this is a decided upon elevation at the top of this little line here. You can see that there's just a station elevation, just labeled it up. Now going back just to take a quick peek, you saw that in that last slide. This is kind of what we're looking at. There's that culvert. So if this road needed to be, say, I think in this scenario, it needed to be 4 or 5 feet, whatever it was, above where this culvert lies. So again, wrestling with this without these tools, we would it was doable, but you had to again massage all of your design to make it work out. So if I wanted to add to this and make this this new tool work, and it also works with both crest and sag. I'm just going to do one of the sags so you get the idea to it. I'll zoom in here a bit, and I'll start it off by selecting our profile, like we always do, our design profile, I should say. And I'm going to make an edit to that. So I'll go into my geometry editor here, and you've all seen this, I'm sure. And as we look through here, I'm looking for my vertical curves. And the vertical curves that we have now are under the more fixed vertical curves. And I'll leave this up for just a second. With my cursor there, you can see that those bottom two are the new commands, if you will. So there's fixed vertical curve, high-low point, parameters, length, or the other one there as well. And I'm just going to use that one. Let's just lay that one in. So this is just like many of the other commands when it comes to this. You have to keep an eye on that command line to make sure you're following along. And it says, excuse me, it says specify your high, low, or low point. I just about drowned myself. So anyway, I'll be okay. But do dial 91 and have your finger on the 1 just in case.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Okay, yeah. And you know me, I'm a diva anyway, so I want that. I want all of that stuff.
Just don't ask me to say your life today. I got a busy schedule. Emotionally or physically, save my life. Okay, so anyway, specify high-low point, and I'm just going to pick, in this case, we've already pre-established that. So I'll just say endpoint here, and I'll select that location, and it's going to prompt me and say, oh, is this curve a crest or a sag? Well, we've already determined that this is a sag location, so I'm just going to select sag, and it prompts me and says, what is the K value to this? So through the magic of television here, I
heard from the designers on this, and they told us that in this scenario, this needed to be a 30, a K value of 30. So if I were to plop that in, and I were to hit enter, it pops up and says, all right, well, what is your curve length? So we can, adjust this, and this can also be adjusted after the fact. Just for speed, again, I'm just going to accept the length at 150. And when I hit enter, you'll see that this lays that information in. Oops. Now, what's neat about this is if I select it, you'll see that that's the insertion point. And if I slide over to the I guess that's not necessarily west, but we'll say, how about to the left? And if I were to grab this and move that, you can see that the start of that vertical curve is shifting, okay? And I'll actually bring it on this side so you can see how that plays out. But notice the insertion point there is still locked in. So nice. We also can grab this whole thing and it will move, so I can move it to a different elevation, whatever it is. Now, I did kind of set this up so you get the process of it more than anything, but as you know, getting these all to match up can be a little bit tricky. But as I stretch that out, I'll just kind of do something like that there, and we can get a little better feel for exactly what's happening. Now, if I needed to tie this in, that's what I was referring to as I can design from this in the incoming or outgoing or from this location. So maybe I'll pull this back a bit. Okay, and if I want to tie these together, the command that we're going to be using, these flyouts, ignore those. Those are from the, there's no intersecting target because the targets are turned off. But if I wanted to make an intersection of these, then it's just going to be dropping in a new tangent line. And as I look down this, it's going to be a floating tangent with a through point. So remember, and I've taught hundreds of you throughout the years, and we've talked about what's the difference between a fixed, a floating, and a free. A floating entity is going to be attached to one thing, and it gives us the ability to select a through point at another location. So if I were to pick that line, whoops, say snapped it to the wrong one here. I'll do that again. So I'll just say float tangent through point, and I'll say from the end point of that there, and I can drag this up, and actually it worked out fairly well, and I'll just snap it to the end point of this line here. And what that did is, if we kind of zoom in, you'll see that there's a little tail, and that could be manipulated via styles. And if I were to hit enter to that, that's going to shift. There it is. That's going to shift where that label came in up top here, right? I'll just bring that down so we can see it a little bit easier. And I can do that same thing on the other side. Now, like I said, I kind of set this up to make things easy, but these may have to be played with. If in fact there isn't a solution for these, of course we'd have to, however we went about doing it, whether it be tabular or manually editing the tangents here, and we would have to change those so geometrically they would fit. So it's not magic. It still has to make the appropriate linkage. And then I could do that same thing on this side, and I'll just do this one here and quick, and we'll jump on to some other stuff here. But same idea, floating through a point. I'll just pick that entity. And that red X, and you've ran into this before, I know I have, that just means that wherever you were to select, if it shows up, it's going to let you know that I can't use that there, right? But if I move that out, you can start seeing where it's going to work out. And I'm just going to do another endpoint on this one. Oops, that may not play out. Maybe I moved that. We'll see. Oh, I know why, because I shifted it. I'll just bring this up. That should do it. And that's exactly what I was just talking about. There we go. Now, as you know, that just puts in a PVI in both of those locations, and now it's just business as usual. It would just be a matter of laying in the appropriate vertical curve, and I'll just do a quick, I don't know, here's a free vertical curve, whatever. As I jump through the hoops here, select your first entity, my next entity, my outgoing. You know, how is this going to play out, or do I want to use a K value? Sure, I'll just throw in that same K value of 30. And then if I hit enter to that, because it's still in the command, you'll see that that went ahead and brought in a label for that. So very nice. Now on that other one that we were looking at, I'm going to get out of this. I jump to another little demonstration of one of these slick little commands. And maybe I'll leave that up. We'll see. Actually, I won't either. I'm going to get rid of that. Next one I'm going to jump into is this new one called Drawing Compare. And I will save that just in case. So this Drawing Compare command, this, I know I keep saying this, but I think this is my favorite of all of them that came out in this release. So I'm going to open up a couple quick drawings. Pop open example 1 and example 2. And these were provided to me. And I'll just move that around just so we can get a, I don't know, a little better flow. So the idea to this is, the little story that went behind this is we're trying to check, like, let's maybe set the stage a bit. If in fact, let's say you had 2 drawings, they were named the same, you know, possibly saved roughly on the same date, or somebody in the office was sick and we didn't know which drawing is the most up to date, whatever it is, and you pop them both open, and I have no idea, you know, which is which or which is the finished product. So this new little command is very similar to some of the commands if you've seen Bluebeam, which is our PDF offering here at PPI. Is you could, there's tools within Bluebeam that allows you to pull information together, different PDFs, whatever, and you can analyze those or compare those, and it'll show you where changes were at, where vision clouds, and you know, whatever's, you know, different. So what I'm going to do on this then is, looking at these two, I do know that this entrance here has shifted. And there's also a couple of different surfaces in the other drawing. If I jump to the other one for a second, you'll notice that this existing ground is much larger. I believe this one was actually created through InfraWorks and then brought into Civil 3D, whereas example 1 was a terrestrial survey where they just tightened up the vertical control on it, okay? But if I were to jump back and forth between these two trying to find what's different, that can be a real hassle, as we all know, and I've done it. Especially when I'm doing template builds and things like that, I'm trying to, you know, compare what I've done different and, you know, whatever it is. So if I wanted to compare these two, you'll notice if you have Civil 3D installed, up at the top here, you have a new tab that's called Collaborate. And by selecting it on the left-hand side, you'll have 2 different buttons. So we have shared views, which I'll show a quick little video on that later, also very slick, but the DWG compare. And if I select that, it takes a second here and it pops up and says, okay, here's the possible drawings that you're going to compare. Drawing 1, which I already have both of them open there. There's, you know, 1 and 2. And there's the path. And I'll go ahead and grab that other one, which is out on my desktop there. And there's that same one. I'm just loading it into this. Now, before I actually load this, it creates sort of a third composite drawing of both of these. But you notice on the left-hand side, it'll say drawing 1, and there's a color here. And if I were to select that, I can actually go into this. I could do a true color of something different, you know, whatever that you know, floats my boat there. But I'll leave it as green. And drawing 2 in this case would be red. So, you know, often I'll see that where, you know, red and green can mean a couple of different things, cut or fill, or for that matter, in this case, like possibly red is a warning sign, or who knows, you know, pick your own colors. No wrong answers on that one. And anyway, once I've selected it, and once I've established the 2 drawings that I'm going to compare, I actually hit the compare button. And it takes a second here, grinds away. And it's going to pop up here. Still going, still going. And now, again, it's taken both of these two drawings and it's created a third, as I refer to it as a composite. So compare site example 1 versus site example 2. Now, I did suggest prior to this that these both could have been named the same thing. You're going through the server, you're looking at it. Both of them have the same versioning number, but clearly there's different information. So the way it works is you can see anything now that's in red is drawing 2. Anything that's green is drawing 1. I have the ability to switch out my draw order just by a simple click on that button, and that just flips the 2 one over the other, because you could have line work that's exactly on top of one another, which in most cases, in fact, this one has the same thing. It would do the same thing. Now down below, there's one additional color here that says common to both. And with that, and I probably don't even need to tell you here, but just to be thorough, if I look out, you can see here's where possible corridors were initially ran. Who knows, there could be all kinds of right-of-ways, whatever. But anything that's in this, I guess, color of this sort of a light gray, again, those are common lines between those two. Now, what can we do with all of this? Well, what I'm looking for is possible problems. And I mentioned earlier that the entrance has moved. I'm trying not to bounce around too much. So there's the red. So that was, in actuality, that's the old one. And then there's the new one. You would have to know which design is correct, obviously, right? But with some simple measurements, and that could be easily figured out. So kind of moving on from that a little bit, what else can we do in here? I can also select up top here. Well, actually, before I do that, I'm going to show this off real quick. It doesn't have to be necessarily in order, but there's also revision clouds that come in. And if I zoom in, you can see this great big revision cloud. What it does is it just encompasses the entire area where possible changes have been made. Again, it's comparing those two just geometrically. It is I guess, the controlling factor there. But right now, it's saying it's a rectangular. So it's just doing its best to encompass that entire surface. I also have the ability, though, to switch it to what they call polygonal here. And you'll see how this now, instead of it just going in one big rectangle, you can see how it's kind of doing little zigs and zags and jogging around here. You can see these additional lines that possibly have been moved. So nice. Now, we also, this has also been moved to there's a grading plan that's been moved as well. Now, I'd have to compare this by, like we said, we were talking about like wherever that entrance was at. So, yep, that would be one method. How are these grading plans grading out? In fact, if I zoom in here a bit, there's that green line is the new contour line from the grading plan, and the red would be the old. So that's another little, maybe a tell, letting us know that there's a problem here or there. And we can also do on this is there's a button up top here that says drawing information. And if I select that, it takes a second and it'll pop this info up. And it's just telling me exactly what we're doing, what's being compared, drawing 1 versus drawing 2 in this case. And I could copy to this clipboard, or I can insert it into the drawing. If I were to just maybe zoom out, so I'm not too worried about this, but you can pick in there and it just fills out that data. So this can be saved out. So if I were to save this, we'd have this comparison drawing that we could always open up later, and everything's going to work the same in it. Still a simple 3D drawing, but it's it's just that comparison deal. So very neat. How are we doing here on time? Not too bad. All right, let me minimize this for a second. All right, so other additions that they've thrown in here, the batch save utility. This is kind of nice. Basically, and I'll let you kind of poke through here or look at these, but we don't have to open every single drawing anymore. This gives me the ability to open and save multiple drawings in one shot. And we can also put in custom scripts. So I know that's been common. We've actually done some of that here, where we've been contracted to create different scripts to achieve different plots or changes or whatever it may be. the only thing I really wanted to point out with this, at least at this stage of the game, is I wanted to make sure you know that you shut down Civil 3D in this case, and you actually would open this directly from the Start menu. So Start, Autodesk Files, or what is it, Autodesk folder, and you look down there and you'll see this Batch Save utility. It's a little program unto itself, and very slick. Now, a little bonus material here. Some of these are, I'm talking Civil 3D, but some of these are sort of a cross between, AutoCAD and, of course, incorporated into Civil 3D. One of the new features within 2019 is the object enablers, which we've had forever. But there is one little component that I wanted to throw out. So, as you know, if I was running Civil 3D and I was working with somebody else that was using, whether it be an older version, or for that matter, it could be the same 2019, just pure raw AutoCAD. And if I gave them my Civil 3D drawing, we've all ran into it, and it pops up and it says something to the effect of, there's entities in this drawing, it doesn't understand them. So, and you'll get the proxy graphics, these great big gigantic boxes, the bounding boxes or whatever they are, that pop in. So a couple different options. One option would be, on whoever created that drawing, they'd have to open up that drawing, or use that last one I was just talking about, the batch utility. They'd have to open up the drawing and then do an export down, and I highly recommend go all the way down to 2000. That just ensures that all of the Civil 3D entities will be wiped out, and it'll be nothing more than just lines, arcs, and circles, and then anybody can open it. But with an object enabler, you can crack it open, and we've done this for years. You download an object enabler or whatever, but the new one will, with the 2019 version, it will not only open that drawing, so you would see everything that's inside of it, but you also have the ability to create the export directly from there. That's slick. You don't have to actually have Civil 3D to do it. You just would go right in, type in, I think it's off the top of my head, it's export to AutoCAD or something like that. And what that'll do is that'll just take all of those graphic lines that it's doing its best to display, and it'll just dumb them all down in air quotes there. We affectionately refer to that as dumb. And it just takes it takes the intelligence off that information, and then anybody can open up that drawing from there. So again, we don't have to go all the way back to Civil 3D to do that. Bonus material, Wendy, bonus material.
Okay, so now would be maybe a good time to quickly address just a couple of questions. So Bob asks if there are Civil 3D objects in both drawings, does it pull that over to the compare drawing, or is it just a plain view line work?
Good question. I think it is just, you know what, I'll get back to you for sure, because I think it is just, I think it's just a comparison. So let me double check that for you. It'll be a quick fix here after the fact. So. All
right, so we'll take that offline, and Kevin will get in touch with you, Bob. The other thing is, Brent, since we're talking about views a little bit here, Brent asks, how will Civil 3D 2019 change my views politically?
You are going to be a severe Trump supporter.
Okay.
If that's what he's referring to.
I have no idea what he's referring to.
Who is it? Who said that?
Brent. So, Brent.
I think I know who this is.
I don't think Brent intended for us to read that.
Yeah, I know a few. I know a few Brents.
Hey, that's just how we roll.
Yeah, that's right.
You put it in writing, we're gonna make you a star.
And there is no wrong answers when you talk politics, right? I feel strongly both ways. So this is Portland, though. Yeah, that one I'll definitely have to get off online or something like that. That might be over a beer or two for sure.
Something just happened.
Did we lose connection there? Let me ask, we actually have another computer in here to make sure things are showing up. Could I ask if anybody would mind typing in?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, wait, looks like it's back. If a couple of you wouldn't mind just saying, you can see my screen again. It looked like it shorted out on our end.
Are we good? It looks like, oh, they can see the screen. Okay. Oh, we thought we just crashed. Okay, one more question here, and then we'll get on to the next
Okay.
When comparing two drawings and then getting a third drawing, will this take 3 licenses? How about comparing different versions?
Oh, good question.
Weston asking.
As long as it's not, you should be able to compare anything, because anything that's, it's always forward compatible, so you should be able to pull those up without a problem. It won't take multiple licenses because it's just a drawing. It's just like opening up multiple drawings in the same session. So it's just grabbing, 2 different drawings. It's not like kicking it out and actually calling out a whole additional license.
Okay. Go ahead and keep the questions coming in, and we'll let Kevin continue through the presentation. All
right. So anyway, bouncing on here. So collaboration and data exchange. Another big thing, and I put a little, actually I didn't, again, I knew that this would take forever and I have to have, different connections as I was sending this out. So I have a little video I was going to play, and I'll kind of talk through it here a bit. Import from InfoWorks components roads as Civil 3D corridors. Okay. So what we've had in the past here is we can go into InfoWorks, and just a real quick rehash. InfoWorks is another offering from Autodesk. It's a really cool tool. I'll be up actually in the Seattle area here, I think in the next couple of weeks, something like that. And we'll be laying it out, and more folks are adopting it, maybe I should say. Great preliminary tool. It's loaded with design information or true, it's not just drawing cartoons. There's design tables behind it, ASTRO tables, everything else. You can start drawing in, your preliminary roads, what have you, and then immediately or quickly compile a drawing, say, I don't know, 30%. We'll start there. So anyway, in the past, when we would bring that information in, a lot of it would come across. We would get the ability to bring in, say, an existing ground, and we would have the alignments and profiles, that kind of stuff would come in. But now it'll actually build the corridors for us as they come in. Now the corridors that are being created, it is coming from a component road, and they're a very, very basic corridor, but you have the ability, once it's in there, it behaves as business as usual once it's in Civil 3D. So let's see if this little bugger will play for us here. And I may hit a couple. So right now it's being laid in on this, and it is a little fast, and I can stop it, but these are possibly, component rows being laid out. And then I'm going to pause it just for a moment there. And at this stage of the game, what's happening is the freeze. There we go. So what was happening there is, scoot back just a bit. A little faster than I wanted him to go there. Okay, so that last frame, should have just done this on my own here. The last frame, what basically was happening, you can see it actually here. Once the road was laid in, then through right-click functionality, if those of you that have used InfoWorks, it's incredibly easy to use. It's usually grabbing a grip or hovering over a component, simple right clicks. And then what they had done is they had widened the road basically. And then you can kind of see here vaguely that what we have there is a transition back. So it went from center line out, an additional lane came in, and then it transitions back. That's a very sharp transition there, so it was a right click. We can adjust out the length of that transition so it would match back in. If I were to kind of exaggerate on my own here, it would transition back to that edge of pavement, okay? Now, kind of moving on here, and in fact, that's a good example of it here. You can see where that stretches out, and there's an additional piece that's been laid in there. Then it bottlenecks back up, goes back into the curve. So who knows, this could be a relatively high speed, or well, it wouldn't be too high speed, but it would be maybe it's it's not 25 miles an hour, so maybe they widened it on both sides a bit or whatever. I can see some possible daylight lines here. Now looking at that, yeah, those are daylight lines actually. So then that information would be taken into the profile view. We can actually adjust it. We can play with the grades on that. And then this information is being kicked out via InfoWorks. And now I'm in Civil 3D. I would open up in this case, it was a blank drawing, set the the coordinate system or projection. And then you can see here up at the top, although grayed out, we're going to bring in the InfoWorks file. What the dialog box that you're seeing here is just showing which possible surfaces that we want to bring in. Are there planning roads, component roads, and the road that was given to me in this, I believe the one that we're talking about is road 569. I know it's small, but that's the one that's coming in. And then the other one, you'll see that just underneath here, and I'll hover over that just so you can see what I'm talking about. There's intersections. Now this, I don't really know how to maybe say this without hurting anybody's feelings back at the mothership there, but this is kind of an intermittent step right now. I found that trying this and performing this, that I'm not getting the intersection looking perfect as we want, but it gets you relatively close. And they're upfront about that though. That's it usually comes in stages. And the purpose of it, I guess, behind the scenes is, as this progresses and as the two become closer and closer together, in theory, these should be able to just come right across. And that's the whole purpose of these different latest and greatest service packs and or, fixes that come out along the way. Now, once that comes into the drawing here, the zones are set. It's going to calculate, compress. There's an area, and you can see where the surface came in, and then that's a corridor. Now, freeze that for just a second. Just to, this will be quick here, but what it's doing at this stage of the game is that you can see that assembly that's being used, or maybe I should say sub-assemblies, those are very basic assemblies. In fact, they're called basic assemblies. It's just giving us the depth and the width there, and then you can see where on that right-hand side, it's just a matter of selecting your assembly, going in to edit that, and then I think that's the one that everybody uses, lane, the AOR subassembly with the multiple lifts on the side. You can see those two yellow flags that are pointing at each other. Those are the pivot points that correspond to this. So I'll kind of play this out and let it just sort of run. As that's being added, as you know, well, I guess first, before I say anything, grab that. That's just a daylight line, a simple Civil 3D move, not a AutoCAD move, but a true Civil 3D move that takes just that entity and attaches it to its appropriate link on the daylight, or I shouldn't say daylight, but the daylight line was moved to that edge of pavement in that case. I know you probably would have put some kind of earth on the back of that, but whatever. Now, the view I'm looking at now is just the profile view that was brought in from InfoWorks. Okay, that's how that was laid out. But again, it's more than anything, it's just business as usual. We can go in, we can grab this thing, we can shift it, and then the only thing you have to remember is that the corridor has to be updated, or you have to rebuild it, or set it to rebuild automatically as you go. Okay. There it goes. Okay, now here's a slick one. I actually could do quite a bit more on this one, but a little video put together on this too, because it is very web-based. So this is called the collaboration and data exchange. Very popular. If you're in the industry, you know that you're seeing this more and more. This, we're constantly hearing the term BIM. Definitely on the architectural side, that's just vernacular that's used day in and day out. On our side, we also definitely play in the BIM game, but it's I don't know if I'd quite say, just being honest here, I don't know if our side is quite as advanced as theirs, but we are definitely becoming a part of this game. Now, this is really just talking about more collaboration and dealing with stakeholders, whatever it is. So a lot of folks, instead of just sending somebody a PDF or whatever it is, we're trying to communicate to large audiences possibly. So what this does is this will let me take my model space and or layouts, or a combination of both, and we can kick these out onto a web-based location that anybody could log into with the appropriate credentials there. And credentials are nothing, it's just going to be sending them an email, and they can log into it, they can take a look at it, they can see exactly what's happening, and we have some basic possible markups, or just call outs, or whatever it is that you want to communicate to all parties involved. So looking at this for just a second, I'm just about done here. I know I'm starting to run up against time here. If I run this, and this is again a little bit starting off here, you'll notice jumping out to the top there, the new tab that we were talking about, the Collaborate tab. And this go, instead of grabbing the DWG Compare, this is the Shared Views, okay? And when I select that over here, it looks similar to the Properties dialog box, pops up. And this is a similar drawing to what we were looking at earlier there. We're looking at it in model space. And you can see that button there, nothing to it. We just basically do a new shared view, and this will pop up and say, you know, you're about to publish a view of your open file to share online. This is where I can name it, and then you'll see where my cursor is located there. I have the ability here, actually I have the ability there to share just model space, or I can do again model and view. Do I want to share both 2D and 3D, which is a possibility? This is a 2D drawing, but what it does, it just kind of, you know, I don't know, wetting your whistle a little bit, is if I did have a 3D surface and/or, you know, roads created in there, as long as I had those renders, if we took that into a view, you would an isometric view, it would look very similar to the way Civil 3D does the rendering. It's not photorealistic. That's not its intent. But it does. You can see the different, I don't want to say hatch patterns, but I should say the renderings that would come into play. You know, the grass, the possible gravel, the concrete, asphalt, you know, whatever it is. And moving on here, once that gets shared, and I proceed, what that's going to do is grind away in the background, and that's going to pop up on the dialog box there. And it does process and/or render that in the background, so you can continue to work. Now, a couple of little things worth noting is up top here on the right-hand side, it says date created. So it only gives you to date anyway. It gives you 30 days by default. So once this is plopped up there, you'll have 30 days to whoever you share this to. There's a little, I believe that's referred to as an ellipsis, ellipse, those 3 dots there. If this was getting down to say, you know, who knows, you're half a week left, couple days, whatever, I could click on this and I can take that information out, or I shouldn't say that, I can actually give it another 30 days. Okay, I'm not downloading anything. You're just basically saying, no, continue to share this for a while. And I'll hit keep going here. In fact, there it is right there. I can view it in the browser. And this would be the other person or other party, and they would pop this open, and you can see this is just going out to the web there. That's why I didn't want to run it live, because I'm projecting via webcast as well as this. So there's where it goes out, and and before I hit, go too far along, you'll see that there's views. So that's going to show, 2D, 3D model space, what have you. There's layers, properties, some settings, and I'll keep grinding away here. Zoom in a bit. So this is where not only can anybody take a look at this, but we can also go up and we can lay in comments. So by selecting that comments tab, I can punch in whatever number it is. And the trick was, I zoomed into a specific view, whatever it is. And this says, please, what does that say? Please run an earthworks. And then as soon as that hits post, it goes out, and then all folks that have access to it can see this. Note it says 2D view. Sharing options, we're going to copy that link, and that's where you can send out emails. This additional communications, here's where that's, please review. I know it's kind of small, so forgive me for reading it for you. Now, by the way, just putting in a quick revision cloud. And now, I think I jumped a little faster or a little further ahead than I liked, but we can put a revision cloud in, and you have some real basic things like labeling it, labeling the vision cloud, and really it's going to be in this little box down here. Now, if in fact you do receive this and you were to log on to it, and you know how this is, I mean, these drawings can get incredibly busy very, very fast. So it also gives me the ability, similar to maybe working with a PDF with layer creation inside of it, we have the ability to do layers, and it just has, it looks kind of like a little eyeball where you can turn things on and off. It just puts a little hash mark through it. You can do some isolations, and I'll just continue this here. And by turning things on or off or whatever you can do, you can see those labels turning off. It looks like a surface was turned off. And another slick little thing with this is that next button over up top here is properties. So even though this isn't live, I'm not making any real edits to this. It's just purely for, you know, to mine data from this you know, collection of drawings or you know, centralized location. We also, and I don't know if it's in here, but down here in the bottom here, there's a measure. I also have the ability to do some basic measurements, and there's no snapping. It does its own snapping for you, just similar to an O snap. But it is a plus or minus scenario. This is not Civil 3D or, for that matter, AutoCAD quality as far as the precision, accuracy, and precision goes. This is just purely for, you know, getting some numbers. Over on that right-hand side, you can see where it's where that box is popping up. And whatever it is that you select, it's telling you what it is. It looks to me that it's got some whatever they grab there. It's even tough for me to see. It's small, and I'm getting old. My eyes aren't the best. It basically just looks to me as probably minimum and maximum coordinate values, you know, whatever it is, simple property stuff that we've all used in the past. All right. So I am just about there, and I'm going to pop this up if there's any questions. Is there more? Yeah, there's always more, but really it's more refinements. Maybe kind of in closing, I would say that this this version, I would say, if bells and whistles wise, it's not like releases of 17 and 18 where we really were inundated with new slick new commands. This one really is if there's a way to look at it, I would almost say that with this new model that Civil 3D is going, this is kind of my take on it, is it's really laying out a new platform. And throughout the year, I'm speaking out of school. How do you like that, Wendy? We had a conversation about that little phrase the other day. Yes. Did I use it right? Close? Possibly. Well, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Anyway, my guess is, and a solid platform for this next generation. You know, again, it's all about collaboration. It's about, you know, efficiencies, communications. There is a big part of that, efficiencies. And I would say it's kind of a platform that will incrementally, as the year goes on, we'll be seeing those improvements. So, you know, case in point there, looking back at that InfoWorks intersection, or the communication tool that we just were looking at, I have a feeling there's going to be a piece or two that you know, as we use in the civil arena, that we're going to say, or if I'm in our survey arena, we're going to say, hey, you know what, we need this or we need that, and those will, you know, be backfilled as it goes. So friends, I right up against time here. It's 10:03, almost an hour exactly. So I'm going to stop there. Any questions that have come in? Also, notice, oh, I guess I didn't put that in there. You're more than, you can get a hold of me a couple different ways. Feel free to call me. I'm actually in Portland here for a while. You'll see the number 800-247-1927. Just ask for Kevin. I should be here for at least a couple hours before I head out. But also you can email me. My apology, I should have that on there. It's Kevin, Kevin, C as in cat, at thepPIgroup.com.
And we'll be sending out a follow-up email that'll have a link to the recording.
Wonderful.
And so you can always just do a quick reply to that too if you have some questions about today's presentation, or if you want to reach out to Kevin and discuss a unique situation, or talk about what your group or your team is doing or needs help on. So we're going to go ahead and take any of the last few questions We'll take them offline. We'll send you an email on those, and so that we can get everybody out of here on time.
Yeah, fair enough. That was my fault. I had a connection problem there, so.
No, we're good. We may have chatted a little too much.
Well, we do that, Wendy. We do that.
So anyway, thank you, everybody. We hope to see you on the next one. Watch for our emails. Check our website for any upcoming webinars or training options. So thanks, Kevin.
Oh,
Good
you're
to
very
see you.
welcome. I wish I could see all your faces. Thanks, everybody, for, you know, especially out here locally. We went an hour early. So,
we did. We did.
Yeah.
And that may have been what threw me off just a little bit.
So thank you again for listening to me and letting me invade your day. I really appreciate it. And, like I said, feel free to contact me. I would love to, you know, take a look at what you got going there, and we can maybe go from there.
All right, great. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Indeed.